Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. All right, we're breaking down a clip of Colin Cowherd talking about who he would rather have, Jared Goff or other quarterbacks. And I guess he's going to go through the list as to, who he would pick, either Jared Goff or whether it's Dak, Lamar, Burrow, etc. Now, two things that I want to say before we jump into this clip. One, I have no idea why he's dressed as a pilot or whatever the heck he is. I did not watch this clip before, so if you guys know something that I don't, please let me know, because I have no idea what the heck this is. That's number one. Number two, some of these situations I may pick the quarterback over Jared Goff. Now, for those of you Detroit Lions fans and Jared Goff fans, I've made multiple videos, which I'm going to post. I'll pin in the comments for this video, praising Jared Goff, saying nothing but positives, how excited I am for him and the Detroit Lions, and how I think the Lions can make real moves and genuinely fight for a Super Bowl. So I am an absolute Lions and Jared Goff fan. So just because maybe in some of these situations I would pick another quarterback over Jared Goff does not mean that I'm hating, does not mean that Jared Goff is going to prove me wrong, any of those types of things. So please save those types of comments, because it's just not accurate, okay? And like I said, I think I made like one or two videos recently about Jared Goff and that contract and just Jared Goff in general, which I'll post. So if you don't believe me, you can listen to the whole rant and all of that. I think one of the clips is like NFL Live, and the other one I believe is either with Colin Cowherd or First Things First. So that's just that I want to get that off the top. But let's jump into this clip and to see why Colin is dressed as a pilot.
Well, my mom once, I wanted to be a pilot, and she said, "You're too scatterbrained to be a pilot. Just talk about sports." But in today's segment, take Goff or take off.
I get it.
I will choose Jared Goff or this other elite quarterback if I had to pick one to lead my franchise this point forward.
Okay.
My hat is slightly askew, but, maybe I spent a little bit too much time at the lounge, the Continental Lounge, before I got on the flight. But you ready to go?
Admiral's Club was just jumping off this morning. Take off, take Goff, or take off. Jared Goff or Lamar Jackson?
I would take Lamar because I think he is the system, and I think Goff is a little bit dependent on the right protection and the right system. Lamar's just going to do what Lamar.
Okay, so I would take Lamar as well, but I want to emphasize that I would a million times I prefer Jared Goff's culture building, leadership, and poise on the field that I think Lamar Jackson, unfortunately, is lacking significantly. Lamar Jackson has not matured in a way that I think he really needs to do. And the perfect representation of that was in the middle of the AFC Championship game, how he slammed his hand or the ball or his helmet, I forget what it was, and it was like, you can't do that. You are the leader of the team. Everyone's looking at you. Like, you still have a chance to win. You have a true chance of still winning this game. You gotta stay composed in that moment. And at this point in Lamar Jackson's career, I would like him to be able to stay more poised. And I don't know if that's going to happen at this point. He's old enough where it should have already been taken care of. And so that is something that I prefer significantly over Jared Goff. But obviously, just the skill set and what you can do from a pure quarterback position and game plan and offense, Lamar Jackson obviously has way more tools in the toolbox.
Lamar's going to do. So both great. I would take Lamar.
Okay. Jared Goff or Jaylen Herz?
Ooh, that's a juicy one.
I'm worried about Jaylen's injuries. Goff, I think, sees the field better, bigger, taller. I think I would take Goff. I'm worried. I've said this before. I like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts without Shane Steichen calling the plays is not the same as Jalen Hurts with Shane Steichen calling the plays. I may change my mind on this by Thanksgiving.
Okay, so that's an interesting one, and I'm going to flip-flop on this big time, because you guys know I like Jalen Hurts. This is a hard one. Okay, well, first off, Jared Goff has either had Sean McVay or Ben Johnson calling his plays. Those are two great, both elite and one day will most likely be elite offensive minds in the NFL. How good was Goff without that? not as good. So we can say that about a lot of quarterbacks. Look at Josh Allen, et cetera, without Brian Daboll. But that's neither here nor there. If we're talking about on a short window time, you have 3 years to win a Super Bowl. Let's go. Both quarterbacks are on a rookie deal, and then you're going to have to pay them $500 billion, and the team's just going to get real bad after that. You have to have one quarterback. You have this 3-year window. Let's go. Who is it going to be? I would pick Jaylen Herz because of what he can do in a short window aspect and his ability to truly take over a game. Look no further than that Super Bowl. He played out of his mind, and he did not just take advantage of good play calling from Shane Steichen or just a great team around him. Watch those highlights. He made something out of nothing like 80% of the time. He was doing unbelievable things, and he put the Eagles on his back that I have not seen many quarterbacks in the NFL do. Goff now, if we're talking about you have a 10-year window to win a Super Bowl, who are you going to build around? I do like the bigger, stronger, more prototypical quarterback like a Goff. I am a little bit more old school in that regard because I do not believe Jalen Hurts is a smaller quarterback. He has been banged up a lot, and so I don't know how he's going to age. It's hard for me to imagine that Jalen Hurts is going to be balling out when he's 32 years old. I don't see it. It's a little bit harder for me to choose. But if you had one game to play, both quarterbacks are 100% healthy. They both have a great team. They're both on a great team and a great play caller, and it's one game. I would pick Jaylen for the similar reasons what I said about Lamar, because Jaylen can do more. And let's say the game kind of gets a little out of control. I feel as though Jalen Hurts has the ability, again, to put the team on his back that I'm not so sure Goff has proved to do. But again, I think that they're both great quarterbacks, and I would be incredibly happy to have either of them as my quarterback.
Okay, take Goff or take off. Jared Goff or Dak Prescott.
Goff in a second.
Goff, easy.
Yeah,
I think he's getting better as he gets older, especially in the postseason. I think Dak, a few injuries, has hit a ceiling, hit a wall. This is what he is. I also think Goff is going to have better protection and more weapons. The Cowboys will be very Dak reliant, and when he throws 40 or more times, he is 8-18. So I think Goff will have a much better year.
The other thing, though, is, because I said I pick Goff without a doubt, no hesitation. But again, this is where it's a little inconsistent for Colin, because he says Jalen Hurts was not that good without Shane Steichen, yada, yada, yada. And then, well, then ask yourself, though, who has Dak really had? Has Dak ever had a Shane Steichen? Has he ever had a Sean McVay or a Ben Johnson? Not really. Not even close to those types of offensive minds. And again, I've been very critical of Dak, but I do think if you're going to criticize Dak and we're going to say that some of these other players need better offensive minds in the room, or that they benefited from other offensive minds in the room, whether it be a CJ Stroud or Joe Burrow, or Josh Allen, not Joe Burrow as much, but Josh Allen, even Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid. If we say that those coaches and offensive minds have helped elevate those players, well, then we definitely have to point out when when other players don't have that luxury. Because I think when you're a quarterback, and when you're a really good quarterback, the difference between being great and elite, really a big, massive part of that is, of course, you have to have some weapons on the field, but who is your coach? Do you have a great offensive-minded head coach, or do you have a great OC? Those things matter. And so I think it is fair to say, what has Dak had in that regard? But with all that said, I am absolutely picking Jared Goff. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Take Goff or take off Jared Goff or Justin Herbert.
Well, even though Herbert, Goff's got a little bit of a tailwind. He's got a little more momentum going for him. But I'm going to take Herbert, bigger, stronger, taller, more mobile. Doesn't have a lot of momentum currently. He's going to have to create that with the Jim Harbaugh. But I think it'll happen very early.
All right. Jared Goff.
I'm going to keep this short. Justin Herbert is going to be an elite quarterback. He has elite talent. My whole rant about offensive minds, Justin Herbert has not been able to have that benefit of having great offensive minds and a healthy team and himself be healthy. The Chargers have been very poorly run. Now that he has Harbaugh, it might take a minute. He's got to get, in line with Harbaugh as well as rebuilding that team. So it might take a year or two, but Justin Herbert will be the perfect example of why coaching matters. Because a lot of people are like, Herbert's not that good. He had a good first year. So what? And now that he has a true bona fide coach, you are going to see you're going to see Herbert and the Chargers really get significantly better. So I think the ceiling for Herbert is higher for him than it is for Goff.
For Jordan Love.
I'm still not sure about the landing with Jordan Love.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know where he's going to land. I would take Goff. But again, I have the right to change my opinion. I just would like another 6 to 8 starts from Jared Goff. But his mobility and the way he, 8 of the last 9 weeks, operated that offense with all those young receivers, kids, really impressive. Today, I take Goff. This is a tough one for me because I'm on the looks like Jordan Love's a top 10 guy train.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Take Goff or take off Jared Goff or Joe Burrow.
This is the hardest one.
Joe Burrow
is better. Burrow has 4 straight years with injuries. Goff never gets hurt. I'd go Goff. And I love Burrow. But aren't you concerned about Burrow's injuries? When's the last time he had a good September? You can go back to Goff. I know I'm getting a little erratic for a pilot. You can go back. I want to be stately. I want to be like Sully Sullenberger. Like if the plane goes a little sideways, I can.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
I can land it. But like, you're getting to a point with Joe Burrow is the injuries are now part of it. Like you have to bake it in. People always bang on Lamar Jackson for being hurt. Well, okay, then Joe Burrow gets hurt. So if you're asking me today who I would take, this moment, very close, it's Goff. And again, I know Burrow's better. I'm not denying that. I'm not in any way more mobile. I think he's as good a third down quarterback as the league has. But all things considered, I'm really worried about Burrow's health.
All right, we're running out of time. This is the toughest one. Jared Goff or Brock Purdy?
Goff, that's the easiest one. Goff got the Lions to win a playoff game for the first time in 32 years. You know how hard it is to break a losing culture? That is tough. Purdy took over a franchise that just wins a lot, that's stacked, and kept winning. Not that it's unimpressive, it's just not as impressive. Got any more?
Final one, Jared Goff or Kirk Cousins?
Well, I think he's a number 1 pick for a reason, and Kirk's a 4th rounder for a reason. I think natural talent, Goff's better. Also, Cousins has to kind of familiarize himself, new staff, new system, new players. I don't think it'll be a little bumpy for him, I think.
All right, let's do one more. Hold on. Jared Goff or Matt Stafford?
Closer than people think. I'd take Stafford. Now, again, he and Burrow, there's injuries, but Burrow's injuries are consistent. Stafford has healthy year, banged up, healthy, banged up. So I think this is closer than you think. I think Stafford's just a better arm talent. If you took Mahomes out and Josh Allen out, I think Stafford's the 3rd best, what you would call arm talent in the league. I think he's that good. You do too, by the way.
So,
yeah. So really, this whole segment just kind of proves to me that Goff is a great quarterback. He is a really great quarterback that took some time to develop, but you give him the right coach, you give him the right pieces, and he can absolutely succeed and thrive. And you can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. No question, no doubt in my mind. Again, it's not always fair to be like, well, what about Patrick Mahomes? What about Tom Brady? And even like, what about a Josh Allen, who is just an also athletic freak? Those aren't always fair comparisons. You can win many different ways. Sometimes just being composed and having a great head on your shoulders and minimizing mistakes is all you need to do as a quarterback to win, given the right, the right situation. Brock Purdy doesn't need to be a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes to succeed with the 49ers. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that you have to now pull Brock Purdy down as long as he's within that situation. If you want to say who's going to be more successful, Brock Purdy or Patrick Mahomes or Jared Goff with the Carolina Panthers, then yeah, it's okay to say, listen, I probably think Brock Purdy will do the worst out of that bunch if you put him on like a bad team like the Carolina Panthers with not great coaching. That's fair. But when we're just comparing team to team and situation to situation and player to player, you have to compare the situation that they're in. You can't just always look at these quarterbacks necessarily in a vacuum. Sometimes we can, of course, but in this specific situation, when we're talking about, I'm looking at this very much of what can we do with a Jared Goff versus some of these other quarterbacks. If we were building a team from scratch, what puts me in a situation to succeed? What do I need to make sure I go out and get? And how possible is it that I get that, right? You could probably win a Super Bowl with, I'm going to make the one guy who always comments on here, I don't know how to say his name, but you can win a Super Bowl probably with the Baker Mayfield, but you would need an elite roster. You need a roster better than what the 49ers had last season, okay? But you can win a Super Bowl with a significantly less elite roster with a Stafford, with a Goff, with a Patrick Mahomes, with a Josh Allen, with a Joe Burrow. So to me, that's why all of these things they're on a spectrum. So to me, this whole segment just proves that Jared Goff is a great quarterback. He deserves to be talked about when talking about all these other great quarterbacks. He gets forgotten a lot for whatever reason. Probably because he went to Detroit, and then Detroit for so long has just not really been a relevant team, so they don't get a lot of media coverage. But he's a great quarterback, great mind, great person, great culture. He can win. He doesn't shrink in big moments. And the other point that I want to drive home is that people say, well, he's not so great under pressure. Guys, all quarterbacks have flaws. Like, we can say that about every single quarterback. All quarterbacks have flaws. They all have drawbacks. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. So yes, if we're trying to say, is Jared Goff perfect? And no, therefore he has flaws. Therefore he's not that good of a quarterback. Well, that's just nonsense to me. That's just nonsense to me. So you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater when comparing quarterbacks. Some quarterbacks are more complete than others. That is very, very rare. Tom Brady couldn't scramble and make something out of nothing like a Josh Allen, like a Patrick Mahomes. Does that mean, that's the era that we're living in right now, where if Tom Brady was playing quarterback right now, was in his prime, people would say, well, he's really not that good of a quarterback. Look what Patrick Mahomes can do. Josh Allen can run for 100 yards. Look what Lamar Jackson can do. Like, that's what we're saying right now when we make some of those statements. And to me, it's just wrong. It's just not correct, which is why I never really like to compare quarterbacks side by side or say, this one's 1, this one's 2, this one's 3, 1, 4, 5. I don't like to do that. I put them in groups. I say, I think Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, this quarterback, that quarterback, they're in the same group, given different circumstances. Put Josh Allen on the Chiefs. Josh Allen absolutely has a Super Bowl or two. No question in my mind. Same thing with Joe Burrow if he was able to stay healthy. Same thing with Jaylen Herz, Stafford, Goff. You put Goff on the Chiefs in 2019 or whatever the first year was that when they won the Super Bowl. He's winning a Super Bowl with them. He just is. Give him Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, and Jared Goff is balling out. No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Put Jared Goff on the team with the Rams when they won with Stafford. They switched quarterbacks, but then they also made big moves. They got Von Miller. They went out and got OBJ. Like, they did big things that mattered. Not to say that Stafford did not help the Rams win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that. But many quarterbacks could win various Super Bowls with the same teams. Meaning, put Goff or Stafford on the 49ers last season, and I think they win the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Put Josh Allen on the Chiefs of last season. Even ask Nick Wright, Kansas City Chiefs superfan, who's winning that Super Bowl? It's going to be the 49ers. So I think you have to consider all of these situations when evaluating how good a quarterback is, because there's just so many variables. This is not in isolation. This isn't just who's got the strongest arm, who's the most accurate, who's the fastest. There's just a lot to be said. And sometimes also, the last point I'll say is, especially why coaching is so important, is because since all these quarterbacks typically have such different strengths and weaknesses, what makes a really great coach is that they can minimize a quarterback's weaknesses, lean into his strengths, and highlight those. That is what a great coach can do. And not all coaches have that ability. You don't think Andy Reid minimizes any of Patrick Mahomes' weaknesses? Of course he does. What was Brian Daboll able to do with a Josh Allen? Minimize his weaknesses, lean into his strengths. When Brian Daboll left, Josh Allen's weaknesses started to get a little bit bigger and bigger. Just the way it works. So, Jared Goff, in a nutshell, great quarterback. Any team should be happy to have him. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Who would you pick Jared Goff over, or who would, are you still running with Burrow, Lamar, any of these other guys? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.